Um, Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first session in 2025 of the Homebuilder Lead Gen Secrets. I'm delighted to be joined by Ed Carey. Ed is the founder and CEO of Audience Town, a leading sales and marketing platform within the home building space, specializing in community-based marketing, analytics, and lead attribution. Ed, I'm going to pass over to you shortly for your own introduction, but before we do, I just thought it was appropriate to pay our respects to the unfortunate event in Washington yesterday evening. And I'm sure that our friends at Audience Town would like to extend our condolences to those of the incident, and thanks to the recovery team for their efforts. On to a lighter note, hopefully. Ed, thank you so much for joining us. We were super excited about this event and by having you as one of our key speakers. Before we begin, would you mind giving the audience a brief overview of you and Audience Town?
Sure thing, Nick. And certainly we echo your comments about what happened in Washington. Thanks for saying something. It's good to be here. It's good to be your first guest of 2025. I think that's very portentous. That's great. We feel honored. I'm the founder and CEO of Audience Town. I think many of your listeners know Audience Town by now. We are a sales and marketing analytics platform for new home builders. We got here after sort of a career journey for many of us at the company, working with large consumer data sets, understanding the interests and behaviors of people online and offline, and then marrying that with software or technology that just improved marketing and advertising for big industries. And after working in the industry of sort of data and technology for a long time, we all thought, why don't we bring what we've learned to the real estate industry? It's a big, important industry. And it doesn't seem to be leveraging these tools like other industries like automotive and retail and telco and insurance and finance. So many years ago, about 6 years ago, we launched the company, and here we are. So good to be here.
Thank you. Perfect. Well, look, as I say, super excited. For those of you that are familiar with the series, today's session is slightly different. So we've had a few pre-submitted questions that we're going to present to Ed and discuss. As always, if you do have any burning questions, please do feel free to pop them in the chat, in the public chat, or message the host directly, and we'll hopefully get around to them. And I say it's different because I think hopefully this session is going to be a really broad and insightful introduction to the calendar year, and obviously with Ed's expertise and knowledge, and specifically around that data that Audience Town are leveraging, should provide some useful kind of takeaways. So I think, look, one way to begin, I thought, which was sensible, would be to understand and to evaluate how marketing strategy has shifted. So you touched on how potentially builders and real estate more broadly is slightly lagging behind in some aspects. But given your work with builders specifically, what main things have you seen change in the past 6 years or so?
Well, when we started the company, it was pre-COVID. And I think culturally inside of home builders, marketing was really just about generating leads. It was about creating events around a new home community, being open or available for touring. COVID happened, and COVID changed the cultures of home builders. And it really made home builder marketing more of a digital experience than it was before COVID. We saw sort of that evolution happen, after the sort of run on all the new home inventory in 2020 and 21. That changed the culture from the top at the home builders. They started to realize, like, wow, our websites are really important. Our digital marketing is really important. Because of COVID, people started to work from home in far larger numbers. They also started to relocate in new, unpredictable patterns from maybe one region to another, maybe from the north to the south. They moved because of weather, they moved because of family, they moved for friends or affordability. And so COVID, I think, changed the culture one more time because it sort of, I think, taught home builders that you can't just guess about your marketing as much anymore. You can't just pretend to know how you're going to sell homes like you used to. How do you know what all these people are doing, what they want to buy? You know, before COVID, I think there was a very a very big belief in kind of the instincts of the home builder or the executive about, you know, how to sell homes. COVID changed that. People started moving around, and people started sort of looking at homes on a much more sort of digital journey than ever before. And so that culture change happened. And on the other end of COVID, where we are now, you know, I think these home builders really accelerated as marketing and sales organizations as well. They've become much more digitally savvy, much bigger believers in the power of a great website, the power of really good marketing and digital messaging to deliver an awesome experience for consumers who might be relocating from across the country or across town, who might want to interact with a new home digitally through a virtual tour. So that's been the biggest shift culturally. And it really all starts with culture. We find that technology and data adoptions are all pegged to really the culture of a company. And if the culture says, hey, we need to develop new, more sort of technology or data-driven ways of marketing and doing business, let's look at how to do that, and let's try new tools and new companies. And I think that's where we are now. I think home builders are much smarter than they were before COVID. I think they're more willing to learn. I think they're more willing to try to meet the consumer where they are in their journey and how they want to buy.
I think when I reflect on a number of events and opportunities to hear kind of keynote speakers, there has been a big shift in change. And I think one thing I'm always conscious of is the demands of those actually in positions of authority to make change, of what to prioritize. I always think that's a difficult one, because we have the education piece, and as you alluded to, post-COVID, there's an element of people having to learn quite quickly about the changes and demands on the consumer base. And I think obviously these platforms such as what we're hosting today hopefully provide people with that opportunity to do so. But there's always that element of when you're trying to completely alter historic ways of marketing and in your approach to business, that there are some teething issues, and there's the element of people needing to I guess try things and experiment before kind of making wholesale changes. And I think it's a potentially an awkward segue, but one segue I wanted to kind of get into was this change and shift to behavioral marketing. And the reason why I tie it in is because I don't think I think it's an evolutionary process, but be keen to understand what sort of impact you've seen from the successful implementation of a strategy like behavioral marketing, and what that actually means at the core.
Yeah, well, continuing with what COVID taught the world and what COVID taught home builders, and how it changed home builder cultures and home builder sales and marketing, was the lesson that other industries had learned in previous years, which is that the consumer is really in control. It's kind of a trope to say so, but it's been true for a while, ever since consumers have been able to get these digital tools right on their phones to let them sort of sort through the information and buy when they want to buy on their own terms. And so COVID taught that lesson, whether at the time people realized they were learning it or not, but they learned that the consumer is in control. The consumer experience, how you buy stuff. Think of Amazon as the sort of paragon of just making transactions easy and simple. Most people these days, meet their significant other online. I think a majority of people do. And so it's become much more normal to make a big decision like who you date or marry or what kind of house you live in, right from your phone. So that's sort of the consumer is in control. That led to the idea of, all right, we got to put the consumer first. Like what our customer wants, who they are, we need to pay more attention to that. In real estate generally, and in home building, you didn't need to think about that as much in the past. You could put a great community in a great location and kind of, put some balloons out front. It would sell. COVID changed that. The consumer is now in control. They have options about where to live and what to live in. And so that kind of led to this, in the marketing world, behavioral marketing. And what that means is, to use another term, but personalization, using data or intelligence about what people really want, what they're looking for, what they're shopping for, what their demographics are, what their profiles are, to personalize the experience with your brand, to personalize everything from the ad they see on the internet to the website that they land on to the sales experience. So that's kind of what behavioral marketing is all about, and it's making the experience more personal. And when it comes to personalization, the way to personalize things is starting with data. You have to know about people probably better than you did in the past, and that's sort of where our backgrounds come in, and that's where our platform comes in. It's just using huge quantities of consumer data to sort of understand where people are in that journey. And that just makes for more personalized marketing experiences. And when people ask me, well, what does that mean in normal practice? I can give, two fun, simple examples of what personalization sounds like to us when we've heard it told back to us. But using our platform, we had a big builder, change all of the images on their homepage and on their community pages to represent the more expensive homes that were still available. They had sold out of all of the $600,000 homes. They only had $1 million homes left. They analyzed all of the consumer profiles of the people visiting, not just their website, but seeing all their ads online, and made changes about their creative imagery, about the representation of what's for sale, and those homes sold. They didn't spend more money to do it. They didn't say to themselves, hey, we need to up our marketing spend to sell these more expensive homes. They just understood their customer, personalized how the customer interacts with the more expensive home, and then they sold the homes. Another example of how personalization in our context has been witnessed is we had a big home builder who noticed that the vast majority of the visitors to their community website were dog owners. I think it was 60 or 65% of the people coming were dog owners, and in many cases had 2 dogs, and more specifically, dogs that were 60 pounds or more. This is the kind of data that we know and that we share. They actually had an available dog shower option, which you could build onto the house, hadn't been marketed. They changed all the images, they changed all the messaging and all the emails to say dog showers available, and that moved all the inventory. Simple, small example of how personalization or behavioral marketing can make a big difference.
It's interesting that you spoke about cost there, and the fact with that example you're referencing, they didn't have to increase marketing costs. It's more about the optimization of that activity. And I think that, again, something we're talking about off air is for builders really getting granular in terms of what's working, and understanding that it has to be backed by conversion data further down the funnel. But ultimately that conversion data should drive the primary data of their activity. And I think potentially that's an element of the funnel that's often overlooked, but obviously plays a key part in informing activity moving forward. I guess there's been a lot of changes with technology and AI and various other buzzwords in the industry and more broadly. But I guess given the topic of today's conversation and the outlook on 2025, what, if any, change you see to this strategy of behavioral marketing, and how do you see this kind of evolving?
Yeah, sure. Well, there's probably a short term and then maybe a long-term version. I mean, behavioral marketing has been around for a while. It's been around for 20 years or more. The best examples of behavioral marketing at scale are Google or Facebook ads. You can run ads there. They're highly personalized. Algorithms understand people's intent, behaviors, interest profiles. The ads ostensibly get delivered are very relevant and personalized, and they convert better. So that's an example of behavioral marketing in action in a way we can all understand. But where is it going? Well, things are changing. Right away, I see behavioral marketing sort of writ large, or personalization, or consumer first. These are all kind of synonymous things. doing a few things. Right away, you see it applying to more things than just targeting. A lot of behavioral or profiling was used to target better. How do we just target the right people to buy this house? That was where it all kind of started, Google, Facebook. But now it's being used for measurement. It's being used to understand the profiles of people who did purchase a home, maybe in retrospect, and then being able to create more prediction about who's going to buy a home, and then more prescription, like, well, how do I actually make them a customer? So that's where behavioral marketing is sort of going. It's going from just maybe a tactic to a strategy. Behavioral marketing is also being used, interestingly enough, to power a lot of the creative assets or elements of marketing or a marketing campaign. So again, it's not just targeting who, but it's deciding what ad to show, what house to show, what person. You're seeing it in a lot of these cool AI applications from cool companies in our space that make awesome websites and virtual tours and AI immersive images. And so there's a lot of like behavioral marketing powered by data that's now turning into things like creative imagery and also really cool AI stuff. So I think that's kind of where things are doing right now. Like, I think that's what we'll see in 2025. It's being used for measurement, and it's being used for a lot of like creative things. And hopefully all the while it's driving better outcomes, more home sales for less money. That's kind of the goal. I mean, 2025 is off to a little bit of a slow start for the home builders. Last year was generally good. 3 years looks really good right now, kind of waiting for rates to kind of come down and, maybe looking for really efficient ways of doing things, maybe doing more with less. Data-driven strategies are really good for that. They create efficiencies. But, back to the idea, what else can you do with it? Well, a couple of opportunities I think are interesting ones are, what's happening with real estate agents this year. I think a lot of the home builders might be thinking to themselves, well, what is my relationship to real estate agents? Are they friends? Are they foes? Are they enablers? Are they frenemies? When you know your customer really well, you can implement more direct-to-consumer strategies is kind of the term. D2C is sort of the acronym. But it means you can develop more personalized ways of working directly with consumers. And you can also work with agents when you have more sort of data-driven, consumer-first behavioral strategies in place. So I think that's kind of a sleeper topic because people, by and large, don't want to talk about it. What's going on with the relationship between agents and builders. It's changing. Some things are changing a lot. Some things are not changing at all. But I think that's definitely on the minds of sales and marketing teams thinking, what is my relationship with agents and what's happening in their business? And how does that affect our sales and marketing? How can we use more data to become more personalized, to drive customers for same or less money? So
you see that evolution basically playing both sides. So the opportunity to market more effectively directly to the consumer, but then also for those that are inevitably going to be using an agent to be able to facilitate that journey. It's not an either or. It's a symbiotic approach, basically.
Yeah, that's right. It's not either or, and it'll probably take years for this sort of symbiosis to sort of play out. But certainly I think home builders have an opportunity and recognize the opportunity to be very direct in their sort of communications to consumers using data, using technology, using automation, using AI, and then figuring out how to work with agents to just capitalize on that. So it's a big change in the industry, and I think it is sort of playing out somewhat quietly as both agents, home builders, and sales and marketing teams kind of get their bearings, this year. But yeah, certainly it's an opportunity, and I think it'll be more clear by the end of the year to see how do data-driven and technology strategies compare, work with, or even work differently than working with agents.
Just a side note before we progress. I always would hesitate to say more with less, because anyone with holding the budget keys is probably thinking, I don't want that to get out to the senior team or the board. But you're right. There's optimizations to be made, but for my marketing folks, we're not.
Well, I'll maybe I'll make the issue worse, Nick, by saying that lead conversion rates for real estate are some of the worst of any industry, and they're 2% or sub 2%.
Yes. Yeah.
Most industries are far and away above that. If you look at auto and other big durable goods or appliances. So yet I have noticed that, there's some sort of acceptance of that, like that's okay, and it's not okay. It could be so much better. And so, and some of that comes, you don't have to spend more money to get more leads always. You should be able to get more leads and get more customers in efficient ways. And, I think that's the goal. And if you could do that, then the budget grows, so I think the overall pie goes up. I think sales and marketing investments increase if executives know that when they put $1 in, they're going to get, more than $2 out.
Yeah. I think you're interesting. Yeah. When my colleagues and other, working with other industries or previous work with other industries, I think there is a bigger emphasis on things like ROAS, and I think we're starting to see that emerge within the building space, but it's still not as defined as potentially other industries. So there's a big opportunity there. Ed, you've actually offered quite a nice opportunity to the audience. We do have a industry report that's going out after IBS, so I'm just going to cue that on the screen for those who would like to be in receipt of that. They can click yes or no if they want to see, or they feel like it might benefit from some value from our playbook. You can hit that poll, and we'll be sure to send that across and out afterwards. That'll be on the right-hand side of the screen. I'm conscious of time and keen to get a couple of minutes covered before we open up to some of these, some other pre-submitted questions. On a personal level, when I was connecting with you, Ed, and having kind of seen Audience Town previously, I was excited to learn a bit more about the When engine. I wondered if you'd be able to offer the audience a little sneak peek into some early signs of potentially January, if it's not too early, of 2025, or certainly some trends that you saw last year with regards to the state of people moving and the real estate industry more broadly.
Yeah, sure. No, thanks for calling it out. We love talking about Wengen. People love the name Wengen. A lot of technology and data companies have an engine that could be a machine learning engine or an AI engine, and it's really just a sort of nucleus of all of their tech data and buzzwords in one place. For us, it is when are people moving engine. It's key to being in real estate marketing. When are people actually moving? And the name Wengen really refers to the fact that when we look at our data, I've got a few quick data points to call out, but we look on average at how long a household takes from the time that they first learn about a new community to actually purchase it. So from the first time this customer sort of is identified, it doesn't mean that they filled out a form. They're anonymous still. To the time they actually sign that agreement, it's typically 263 days. So it's 10 months. People looking at your website today, if you're a marketer on this call, will not likely buy from you until October or 2026 based on the data we see in our platform. So when are people moving is really a mind-blowing concept, because we're all sort of trying to focus on getting like leads. But the people coming to your website or understanding, seeing a billboard of yours, they might not give you their identification yet, but we can identify them and start to see sort of when they're likely to buy. So it could be a long time from now. So that matters because it's a very long experience for a consumer. If you're marketing to them and you look at the home forecast for 25, you see a few things. Our forecast for the year, looking at our Wengen data, which is 280 million adults, it's 120 million households, 30 million people we kind of score to be likely to move in the future. It's 500 billion digital events a day. So this is a huge set of data and consumer behavior. Our forecast is that about 20 million people will move this year. And that's just what the data says. Last year, about 21.5 million people moved. So that's all moving. So that's buying, selling, renting. So that's all the people doing stuff. So that means fewer people actually moved this year than last year. Now, that data can change. And so, data doesn't really lie. It's an input. It can definitely change as rates go down, and it can change if inventory jumps up. But right now, we're sort of forecasting that fewer people might move. That doesn't mean that more people won't move in 26. To my point about the Wengen is that it could take a year and a half for someone to experience a life event and actually buy a house. So, a slower 2025 can still mean a huge 2026. Other things we're seeing in the Wengen right now are, how many people are actually in market to buy a new home, like a newly built home. And right now we see about 1.5 million people who are sort of looking for a new home to buy. Now, that's probably more people than will actually buy a new home this year. Last year, I think the number comes in around 700,000. So there's demand out there for new homes, for sure. But it's out there. So if you have behavioral marketing, personalized marketing, if you have a consumer-first strategy, how do you capture those people without having to spend more money in a market that could be a little slower given rates? So that's kind of some Wengen data. We publish Wengen data every month. I have a newsletter I put out you can get from our website, and I publish Wengen data every month. So we'll watch as those numbers change and update them frequently.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, look, we've got a few minutes left. I'm going to do some quick fire questions based on some entries, and then we'll kind of round off. One that was of interest to me was this question we received around if you're a mid-sized builder with a modest budget of say 3 to 5 million per annum, where would you prioritize your allocation of resource and expenditure?
Yeah, no, always tricky. I guess I start this way, controversial or not, is, keep doing what you're doing, just sort of do it better, do it smarter. There are ways out there that can make what you're doing just better than it already is, especially in a year like we might have where, we've got a really good 2-year, but maybe this year, you've got to be cautious and efficient. So I think efficiency stays the name of the game. That means doing, more with the same or more with less. That, and then, I think it's very doable now to sort of close the gap between sales and marketing. To kind of know when a marketing lead becomes an actual customer. I think that's really important for all businesses. It's possible to do in several different platforms. There's ways to do it between Google and your CRM. There's ways to do it inside of a platform like AudienceTown. You can do it with an ad agency or marketing agency. Just really knowing what worked and what didn't. That's just key. Otherwise, you're just blowing money on marketing and trying to get more leads. More leads isn't the game. You want better leads. You want real leads. You want real customers. Which is even better than leads.
I actually had 2 cents here. I think one opportunity is that gap, that space between marketing and online sales teams, and that feedback loop. Because I think oftentimes we see those discrepancies between KPIs of sales and marketing and online sales and marketing teams, and there can be a tension or underlying frustration between the two sides. Marketing submits a report at the end of the quarter, demonstrating how many leads they've driven, and the online sales team or the sales team goes, yeah, but how many of them were actually qualified leads? How many went to tip? How many went to appointment? Anything else? That feedback loop between the online sales team and the marketing team is really important, because we can have levels of qualification and reporting, but ultimately without actually getting to the guys on the ground, we're missing that. And we see it quite often when we're trying to help builders convert more leads through their website traffic through our solution. We really encourage that active dialogue between the two teams, and often they're increasingly forming under one unit. But I think for some that's an outstanding point that's probably worth kind of bearing in mind.
Big time.
Slightly negative, maybe. What would you suggest the biggest challenge will be in the upcoming year?
Well, it could be right now that, it's always the rate thing, but I think there's an opportunity. Sure, rates are high, supply is tight, all those known issues. However, there are still people moving, and I think it's a great opportunity. I think the people moving who are dead set on moving, or they've had life events, they are highly qualified to move. They know what it takes. They're willing to sell a house. Maybe they're first-time buyers. So that is the opportunity. I think new homes are still 30% of all listings for sale. The used market or the resale market is still slow, and there's nothing available. So that's the opportunity. This year. So, you want to use data-driven or consumer strategies or behavioral marketing to really pinpoint those people, deliver them a great digital experience, and then close the gap between, leads and sales. And I think that's the way to go. I think that's the way to go this year. That's going to have to be what it is.
Awesome. I think that ends us quite nicely on the spot. Thank you, Ed, once again for joining us. Where can folks kind of find you after our session?
Audiencetown.com. I've got a cool newsletter there with all of these consumer insights. We'll be at the International Builder Show in Vegas in the Sales and Marketing Central. See us there. We've got some cool materials you can download right from our website, and you can always get a demo of our platform if you'd like. You can always email me, ed@audiencetown.com. So thanks, Nick.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
And likewise, for those who have watched, thank you very much. You can find a link to our webinar recordings from previous sessions, the likes of Brittany Mitchell from D.R. Horton, Greg and Kevin Whitesall, Jimmy Diffie from Boca Group, and several others. So please do that. We're also hosting a live session, a Q&A session at IBS. So for those interested, we'd love to get your input for 10 minutes and a few quick fire questions. And likewise, those wanting to understand a little bit more about how we can support with the on-site conversion rate, converting more of that traffic that Ed's team are driving. You can find us at conversion.com and me on LinkedIn at Nick Chitty at Conversion. So thank you very much. Enjoy your afternoon on this Thursday, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Nick.